G'day cobbers, welcome back to the bush. In this video we're going to be checking out catch cans, what's inside them, should you even use them for your four-wheel drive, and how they work. So let's get into it. Now, I've no affiliation with Flash Lube or Tamer or even Don Kite, people who make it, so if it's crap you'll know about it. So let's see what we got in the kit. Firstly, a few odds and bods. This is the catch can itself. Comes with some diesel conditioner. Fantastic. Okay, and we've got a clear tube here. Bit of advertising material. And a couple of rudimentary instructions. So with all that together, it's not a hard process, so we'll pull apart the catch can, we'll have a bit of a look at that. This is a build of it. So we've got our lid here, obviously, which is clockable, which is great, helps with installation. And we have our filter here. So it's not a mesh filter, it seems to have some sort of mesh on the inside there, which is supporting the outside filter material. And we have a conical shape at the bottom there for the collection. It's also got an overpressure valve in there, so if it gets clogged up, it's not going to blow up. It'll just leak all over the inside of your engine bay. But that's actually not a bad thing. Alright, now one thing I noticed, it doesn't have a dipstick, but it does have a clear tube at the bottom. So I assume that's where you're supposed to check the level, which you'll let out with this valve here at the bottom here, which you put somewhere accessible at the bottom. That's great, except for when it gets covered with mud, which isn't a great idea for four-wheel drive, so I'd still prefer to see a dipstick on top. Okay, let's get on with the installation. First up, let's have a look at what's happening in the combustion chamber. So obviously your air and diesel are heading down into here where they get burnt, and a little bit of the compression is leaking past the piston rings down the side and pressurising the crankcase down here. That's where the oil sits, and a big old oil mist as the engine's running. And it vents up top through to the tappet cover up here and vents out and straight into the inlet manifold. Now you'll notice there's no PCV valve there, or a positive crankcase ventilation valve. That's a petrol thing, not a diesel thing, and we're running a diesel, so that's what we're talking about. And then the mist that gets pumped through here out of the tappet cover gets reburnt again, but unfortunately it also coats your inlet manifold, the inlet port here and the back of the inlet valve, and that chokes the flow and kills performance. So you want to keep this as dry as possible, as clean as possible. So let's have a look how we'd plumb in the crankcase gas recirculation catch can. So when we plumbed in the catch can, again we're getting our fast burn here, a little bit of compression is leaking past the piston rings and whatnot down the side here, pressurising our crankcase here, and don't forget all your oils in the bottom here. The pressure is heading up the side into the tappet cover here, but this time instead of going straight into the inlet manifold, we're going into the catch can, and the catch can is separating most of that oil mist from the air, which collects down in the bottom here. Now reasonably clean air comes back through the top here and back into our inlet manifold, so it's not coating the inside of our inlet manifold and the back of our inlet valve here with junk, and therefore not shutting it down nearly as much. But what about if you've got an exhaust gas recirculation valve or an EGR valve, which this car doesn't, but a lot of modern cars do. So if you have an exhaust gas recirculation valve as part of your emission system, what happens is a little bit of the exhaust goes via the valve, which is usually controlled by the ECU, back into the intake, and the particulate matter that goes from your exhaust into your intake manifold, it's not great as far as coating the inside of your inlet manifold is concerned, especially if it's got oil vapor mist coming directly in from the tappet cover, and really clogs up the inside of your intake valve here, is your intake port and the back of your valve. Now some people will put in a blanking plate for older vehicles or even edit the ECU, but that's an off-road only modification. You can't use those things on road. You won't pass roadworthy certificates, and if you do get pulled up, there's big fines involved, so I don't recommend doing that. But there is an ECU edit for some vehicles, or a blanking plate, which could be a consideration if you're running your vehicle off-road. So now we've got a bit of a better idea how this works. Here's the catch can mounted, and I'll put up a picture of the bracket that I used and constructed to mount the catch can. It runs off the brake booster, mounted off the brake booster. So we've got the outlet here from the valve cover with all the rotten gases filled with oil mist going down through this tube into our catch can. It gets filtered and comes out the back here. Of course, I much prefer for it to head this way, but beggars can't be choosers. And then comes out that way and then back into the inlet manifold here without, hopefully, the oil mist. So while this setup hasn't had the opportunity to catch any of the oil mist coming out of the engine as yet, Matt's catch can, which is exactly the same as this one, has been in his turbocharged 1HDT in his 80 series Land Cruiser and hasn't been drained for a couple of thousand K. So we'll head over to Matt's house and we'll have a look and see how much oil we get out of that one. Okay, now mine's obviously just been put in, so there's no oil in it, but this is Matt's. As you can see before, when I was saying about the clear tube, well, you can't really tell. That's why you need a dipstick on it. But we'll turn this one on and we'll see if we get any juice out of it. And you can see it start accumulating in the bottom there. And apparently it's been a few thousand kilometres, 2,000 or 3,000 kilometres since we did it last, so we're getting a little bit out of it. This is a fresh 1HDT motor. It's only a few thousand Ks old from a rebuild, so we don't expect all that much out of it. That's it, we're down to nothing now, so it's full. Okay, so we'll have a bit of a closer look at it. Right guys, so we collected about 50 to 75 mil out of the 1HDT here over a couple of thousand K, so it isn't a great deal, but it's a fairly new motor. So you'd much prefer to be able to collect it in your catch can and then drop it into a container where you can responsibly dispose of it, than it coating the inside of your inlet manifold and the back of your inlet valve, shutting down your performance, in combination of course with exhaust gas recirculation. So guys, if you like this video, don't forget to give it the old thumbs up, and if you didn't, by all means, give it a thumbs down twice. Thanks guys, we'll see you in the next one. Let's get into it. That's funny as hell. Oh, I'll do it once more.